everybody. Welcome in. It's another episode of Landmark Live, a production of the Platte County Landmark newspaper. Welcome. I'm Ivan Foley. This is Brad Carl.
Hello, boys and girls.
And here we are, boys and girls, and
ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes.
And commissioners.
Welcome to the county commissioners as well.
That's right.
Here we are, like a week after. We gave it a week to kind of marinate, after the election. We didn't want to rub it in too quickly.
I think that was nice.
It was very kind of us.
I think so.
Yeah.
I haven't read your article yet. Well, I read your article from last week. Yeah. Do you go on some more today?
Little bit. Little bit. We did some history today.
It's hard to stop.
Well, we're going to stop after tonight.
Okay.
After tonight, we just got to do an autopsy. What we're doing, Brad, this is an autopsy on the failed jail tax proposal.
I think that's a really good idea. Take its pulse.
I don't think there's a pulse left. I think, as I put in my column, that thing was dead on arrival and required a closed casket. Brad, it was ugly.
I would agree with that. In fact, when I went in to vote, I swear to God, my ballot was screaming at me.
What was it?
Help! Help! Help!
Hit no.
Exactly. Didn't even have to tell me that. I knew by the way it was screaming. It was dying. So.
Put it out of its misery.
Shame on me.
We do have a guest we're going to bring in a little bit that'll help us with the autopsy and tell us kind of his thoughts on why it failed so badly, and what we'll kind of speculate as to what's coming up in the future.
Yeah, even I can with all the education that I've gotten on this show.
Yeah.
I think I may even be able to tell you why it failed. But not that I can do it right now. But I could tell you. Before I go any further, though, I want to thank my wife and my daughter for one of the shirts they got me. They were trying to expand my wardrobe for the show.
Yeah.
And so today I'm wearing a shirt with parrots on it. Although when I first saw, or a parrot, I should say, all over the place.
Yeah.
From a distance, I think it probably looks like a gecko. I actually think it looks more like Toucan Sam.
That's a good looking shirt, though.
Thank you. Yeah, I like it.
That's probably a Jimmy Buffett shirt.
I could definitely see
like a parrot head. Yeah, you could. But you got jeans on tonight.
I did. Well, I didn't. I didn't know what to do.
It looks good.
You got your pointy shoes on.
I got pointy shoes on. We're gonna go out and kick some tail.
That's right. So, and I also got some jail trivia tonight.
Oh, good.
Some trivia and facts.
You can never have too much jail and prison trivia. I've always said that.
I think it's important for people to be educated on these kinds of things.
Well, yeah. The more we can educate people, the better chance they've got of staying out of jail. Right?
That's important.
That's what we do. It's a community service we provide here on Landmark Live. And hey, we didn't even try to sell a sponsor tonight. We wanted to go sponsor free because this is kind of a controversial topic, and we don't want to get any of the business folks in trouble.
And that way we can swear too.
Yeah, it makes it easier to justify.
Right. It makes it. But we've already heard that all of the Platte County businesses are against.
Yeah, the business community not really a big fan of that proposal. And
apparently not a big fan of the commission.
Not a big fan of the commissioners.
So,
let's just be frank about it.
And I will say, maybe I should save this for when our guest comes on, but I'd like to get his opinion too, but I'm sure he agrees that one of the problems with the commission is the commissioners is there's not just one of them. And so I've always had this theory. I have a book about inspirational business quotes. Yes.
Oh, I need to read that.
You can find it on Amazon. A couple of them are even mine.
How much do you charge?
It depends on if you want to put it on your coffee table at home or if you want to just have it on your Kindle.
I don't have a Kindle, so you better give me the coffee.
$11, $12, something like that. Put it on the coffee table at home, or in the bathroom. It's a good bathroom reader.
Is it?
Yeah, you sit down. If you
you
sit
do?
down.
No, I stand up usually when.
Well, which
you sit down?
You stand up when you do.
I don't know.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Wow! I got to see that. I know it sounds weird, but I got to see that.
No, not an audience participation.
Okay. So, but I've got a quote that says, and I believe it's my quote, and it says, I didn't come up with this idea, but I just reworded it to, call it mine.
Yeah.
And that is that if you ask a room full of people their opinion on something, you're going to get a room full of people's opinions. You're going to get all these different opinions. You can't ask a whole bunch of people an opinion about one thing. Like, for example, right now, there's 4 of us in this room. If I ask, where would you really want to go to dinner tonight? We're probably going to get 2 or 3 different answers. And it's going to be hard to pick. Not everybody's going to be satisfied.
Well, I can tell you where we're going.
Well, I got a pretty good idea. Yeah, I got a pretty good idea. I won't even say what it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to make other people unhappy.
I will. We're going to Tanner's after the show because they advertise in the Landmark. We gotta support the advertising.
Idea.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
Going to camp.
But you see my point, is that there are 3 commissioners.
Yeah.
And one sheriff, too, by the way. And so there's some different thoughts and opinions and motivations and ideas going on, and they all have to come to a head and make one decision. And we saw what decision they went with. They went with putting this tax on the ballot.
Right.
And it didn't work.
No.
So hopefully they will reevaluate the way they've done this. So, I don't know. I don't think, one of these, I don't think they all had the same opinion.
Well, you're probably right about that.
That's just my guess. Yeah.
But again, thanks for tuning in. It's Landmark Live, a production of the Platte County Landmark newspaper. Ivan Foley, Brad Carl here with you. And we're going to bring on a special guest. He's been on before, and we're going to bring him back on again to talk, kind of help us with this autopsy we're doing on the failed jail tax. It was a $65 million proposal that lost with 62% of the vote against it.
Yes.
Including you and I.
Yeah.
I didn't see your ballot.
Well, you got a pretty good idea.
Oh, okay. All right.
Let's bring him on.
All right.
I like this guy.
Mr. David Park joining. Hi, David.
Hi.
Great to have you again, David.
Hi.
Nice to see you again, sir.
Jump up in the big chair, David.
Oh, I say I was working the polls on that Tuesday, and I saw Brad one of the times.
Oh, you did?
Voted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One of the times I voted.
That's good.
That's good. He was peeking at my ballot, too. Kidding.
What precinct do you go to?
I don't know. What precinct was I at?
Was that very south, I think? It's
Yeah.
42.
Yeah.
What physical location? Do you remember where
It's
you
the
went?
clubhouse.
Coast.
Yeah, the coast.
Oh,
The coast.
Coast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's where I always go.
I tried to buy a place in the Cove, and we made an offer on it, and somebody had beaten us to it. The same day we looked at it, Brad.
That happened to me too, though. But that was not at the coast. But our very first house.
Yeah.
We put an offer in. The house was already gone.
Ridiculous. But anyway, David, enough about me.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about David, your analysis of the 62% against, 38% in favor of the jail tax proposal. Were you surprised by that outcome?
No, not at the end. I think that part of what I was looking for is what group is endorsing this. Usually with these types of issues that are put out by the county or a city or whatever, there's going to be an outside group that really funds and carries out the campaign to push for it to happen. And I was waiting for that. I didn't see any outside group. In fact, there was hardly any advertising done. I think I got 1 or 2 robocalls that were paid for by Dagmar Wood or John Elliott. I think somebody got a mailer that they said was funded by somebody, by one of the commissioners, but not an organized outside group.
Right.
I wasn't seeing any endorsements. As you reported, Platte County
Zero
EDC
endorsements.
passed on it. Platte City, I think, Area Chamber of Commerce passed on it. The Republican Central Committee.
Yeah, even
Passed
Republicans
on.
passed on it. And Democrats said no.
Yeah.
Now, you got some robocalls. Talk about that, because I talked to some Platte City people who got robocalls from Eric Zahn, the prosecutor. That was on like the Thursday before the election, and then all of a sudden it stopped. It was like they either realized they were fighting an uphill battle, or I'm not sure what happened there. But people told me they were getting some robocalls like on that Thursday, and then I never got any more reports from it. Who did you get robocalls from?
I don't even remember who it was that was on it. I tend to. It's a machine talking to me.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and the mailer that went out up here said it was paid for by John Elliott, is the one I saw, one of the commissioners. Did you see any of the mailers?
I didn't get a mailer.
I didn't receive one, but pictures got sent to me. Did you get a mailer?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah, not that I'm aware
Interesting.
of.
So, and then some yard signs went up that had a little sticker on it that almost looked like a ransom note. It said paid for by Mark Owen, and it was like support law enforcement, I guess, with the insinuation that if you voted no, you're not a law enforcement supporter, which couldn't be further from the truth. But
there was a sign at the polling location for supporting it. I didn't see a paid for by, so I don't know who.
Yeah, it was real tiny. It was just on one side of the sign, at least the one I saw. And it said paid for by Mark Owen, who was the sheriff, for those just tuning in. But anyway, so it was 62% against, 38% in favor. And another shocking thing, David, 0 precincts had a majority approval of this. Amazing. I've never seen that before in Platte County.
Yeah.
Your reaction to that?
Pretty universal.
Stunning, isn't it?
Pretty universal across the county.
It's stunning.
Yeah.
I mean,
taxes are not liked all across the county.
yeah.
So.
Well, But there are some tax-friendly communities that
That's
are.
true. Parkville did pass their park tax.
Yeah, on the same note, it wasn't necessarily an anti-tax night because Parkville passed their park tax, and Platte City, though it wasn't an actual tax, they got approval to spend their bond issue money.
Right.
And
Right.
so everybody but the county had a successful night on these tax-related issues. So it was not a good showing for the county
No.
commission.
No.
Now, and that's another thing we can talk about, and you kind of touched on it. They didn't even form a committee. There was no pro committee out there, and which is kind of surprising. And another thing, these things don't usually get kicked and defeated if there is some organized opposition, and there was no organized opposition to it at all. I mean, all it was us talking about it on the show and writing about it in the paper, and I know the Weston Chronicle came out against it, but there was no organized opposition. Another surprising fact that
No flyers, no robocalls, nothing in opposition to it.
Just amazing. So, what do you think? What do you think they do from here? Any idea? Any speculation? Should we speculate a little bit?
Well, what I would like to see them do.
Okay, let's talk about that.
We've got the Supreme Court rule about the no cash bail that it goes into effect this summer. They need to be prepared for that, and I think that they need to establish what's called some pretrial services,
Right.
which are set up when a person's arrested. Right away, the pretrial services starts doing a little background check on them, what kind of history they got, and what's the nature of the offense. To determine, is this somebody that could be released, or is this somebody that's a danger to society and needs to be detained and held in jail?
Mm-hmm.
Without that, the judges are going to be facing, do I let this person around, and with minimal information available to them, and they're going to be more likely to hold that person, meaning the population in jail will continue to go up. So they need to get that in place. They don't have a choice, in my mind, and it's going to take a while to do that. Pretrial services is not a new concept. It's been out there for a long time. I mean, go to Wikipedia, look up pretrial services, and you'll get a ton of information. The National Sheriff's Association adopted a resolution supporting it in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been out there, and it's been established in places where they want to resolve an overcrowding situation in their jail. Mm-hmm. They do this because it does. I think one study I saw in New Orleans that when they implemented it in 2013, I believe, after a period of time, they were finding that 93% of those who had been released were returning for their court thing. So that the fear that if we do this, they're not going to return is not warranted. So they need to get that set up.
Yeah, and I think as you and I talked about, if they don't get this pretrial service set up, then there might be a tendency on the judges to keep some folks in jail who really don't need to be in jail. Just they want to err on the side of caution, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Yeah. I think if there's any question, obviously, if you hold somebody in jail that doesn't have to be there, there's no real threat to society. If you release somebody that you shouldn't release, there is a threat.
Yeah, right.
So one does have a more negative consequence. So they're going to err on that side. Well, if I'm not sure, I'm going to keep them in there. And then if you don't have somebody, if you do release them, and you don't have somebody following up with them, they're going to be more than likely not to come to court. Now you got a warrant; it's got to be served. Right. It just adds to your expense.
Yeah. So if they're serious about getting the jail population down, they really need to do this.
Right. They really need to do this, and not just keep the jail population down, but to keep the workload of the courts, the caseloads down. Mm-hmm. Because every time you have these cases scheduled, somebody doesn't appear, you send a bench warrant, they get arrested. Now you've got sheriffs, deputies, time involved with that arrest. Then they come back for another court date. That time they probably held them in jail until the court date. It just adds to the expense. Whereas if you could just have somebody assist them, a lot of these are automated systems. You get a call saying, "Don't forget you got a court date tomorrow."
Right.
And the people come in.
Well, let's talk about your background a little bit for the folks just tuning in. Tell us, now you have some experience with jails in your time you worked for the city of Kansas City. Just tell the folks about that, your background in that regard.
Sure. Well, I was director of Neighborhood and Community Services with Kansas City, Missouri. One of the divisions within that department had been the city's municipal correctional institution, which is a jail. It's actually roughly about the size of the Platte County jail in terms of numbers of inmates. We had about half of them, though, were detainees, and the other half were sentenced inmates. So, I understand, what you deal with the overcrowding and the difficulties with funding and some of the stress that puts on the correctional officers that are in there. You've got these inmates that have to be kept separated from the others for a variety of reasons, and which ones can work, which ones can't. It is stressful when you're at a capacity issue and trying to work through all of that. And it's stressful for the inmates, which then you start getting more negative interactions between inmates and between inmates and staff. So,
It's interesting. So, Brad, bring us up to date. How was the campaigning in your neighborhood? You didn't see much activity on this, did you? Voter turnout was only like 16, 18%. So.
Yeah, it was one of the things that David and I talked about briefly when we ran into each other at the poll. I mean, it wasn't very strong, but that's not unusual for an election in April, right? That's kind of normal behavior.
Right.
So, sure. But I will say that as I was mentioning earlier, that I don't know that everybody was on board that was actually involved with this on the commission, and I think that it's interesting to note that as we sit here and talk now, where do they go from here? What would we like to see from here? And what you're kind of describing is, let's do this. It's due diligence before you say we're overpopulated. This is kind of what we've all been saying. Before you say we're overpopulated, we have this new thing coming out. Let's give this a test. Let's see if we can keep the jail population down. Let's not just try to throw $65 million of our money at a new jail. I think one of the articles, I don't know if it was your article or somebody else's, maybe a piece that you put in the paper that mentioned in a nice way, it's like, hey, Sheriff, I know you'd like to have a nice new crisp jail, but that's not the only thing we're looking at here. We need to look at other things besides just getting you a nice new good facility.
If there are safety issues,
sure.
like they kind of mentioned. I mean, it started out all about space. We're out of space. We're out of space. Well,
right.
that wasn't really flying. So in the closing days of the campaign, it kind of went to we've got safety issues. There's rust in the showers, and people are using shivs and whatnot as weapons, and so it kind of went to it got a little bit ridiculous, quite frankly, in my opinion. Yeah. So if there really are safety issues, they should be looking immediately. Oh, we've got to come back with something quickly. But if that safety issue was a bunch of bull, which I think it was, this was going to sit for a while.
Right, because I think the implication, if I'm not mistaken, is that obviously if you've got safety issues,
they didn't happen overnight.
Right.
Here's
you don't need to build a whole new jail.
And it's kind of embarrassing for them to bring that up because it points to management. What have you been doing? Why did you allow those conditions to get that way? That's an embarrassment for those who are in a position to be doing something about it. Why'd you let it get this bad?
Sure.
So, they're kind of not painting themselves in a very good light by using that strategy.
And the feeling that I get really overall, is, and again, as the average Joe citizen who voted, is that the what was behind the jail tax proposal. How am I trying to explain this? I don't even know that the commissioners all supported it the way.
Well, I think the only one that gave any public indication, and he just kind of did it under his breath to me one day, was Ron Sheeper.
Right.
The other two never gave any indication that they weren't on board.
But the reason that I say that is it doesn't feel like just and again, I'm just speaking as the average Joe commenter here, that we talked about, we really didn't, there was no push, there were no organizations, there was no, it didn't really seem like there was really anybody really trying to put it home.
And I put it in the paper. The one day I did get the vibe from Sheeper that he might not be 100% behind this, but
sure. And I wasn't even necessarily trying to bring that up as much as I'm just saying that I just didn't feel like I had a lot of pressure to vote yes.
Because they didn't form a campaign to really push it. I mean,
right. That's my point. Is that I don't it was just kind of
And that's a theory too, David. Maybe you have a thought on this. There's some people who think, well, they just threw it out there to say, well, we tried. Your thoughts?
At least that what we see, the evidence fits that theory.
Right.
Yeah. They put it out there without, they first were going to put it out there, or they talked about it last August.
Right.
As maybe being on a November ballot.
Right.
And they caught some flack for that. But then they started talking about it maybe on the April ballot. But there will be a lot of public.
Yeah, they mentioned, we're going to have a lot of public input, which never happened.
If they really were planning then to have it on the April ballot, I believe they were, they should have spent a lot of time between that August and January when they voted to put it on the ballot, building the case for it.
And they didn't.
Which makes you think, well, did they do that on purpose?
Right.
Because that somebody was pushing for the jail, and they had to at least, well, we tried. Because I had to think, they know better, that the way they went about it was going to result in anything any different than what it did.
Yeah, we almost, and we kind of laughed about it, some of us privately, that they're doing everything. If they wanted to lose this election, they're doing everything right to lose this election.
Right.
I mean, that was obvious before the vote came in.
Yeah.
I mean, which would have been a sad deal if this thing had passed when they put no effort into.
And the thing is, I do believe that the sheriff has issues, that need to be addressed. This pretrial services, that's nothing the sheriff can do. Right. There's issues with the public defenders that's causing the overcrowding into jail too, or periodic overcrowding into jail too. That's not something the sheriff can do something about. Yet he's the one that's having to deal with all of that. There are capital improvement needs. I do think that there's some space issues for the sheriff's deputies and the prosecutors and dealing with witnesses and privacy. I do think that there's some needs there that need to be addressed. And they've spent their time going through this exercise and not addressing those.
And they didn't even seriously investigate cheaper alternatives in my mind. If they did, they didn't give them much thought or any public discussion. Let's put it that way.
Right.
So,
Right.
again, you're watching Landmark Live, a production of the Platte County Landmark newspaper. I'm Ivan Foley. This is Brad Carl, and our special guest, David Park. Oh, Brad, I got an email the other day from a guy that said he was bowling on a team, and one of the guys on the other team knows you and referred to you as the bald guy from Landmark Live, which I thought.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm serious. You were bald. Okay. All right,
Yeah,
that
I was
solves
going to
that.
cut it.
That solves that.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you're like world famous.
Wow. Well, at least they didn't call me.
You should start doing some hair commercials or something.
I don't think that'd be a good idea. Well, maybe Vic should start doing hair.
You should be like the hair club for men. Be one of our sponsors.
I don't want hair.
You don't?
I'm done.
What if you get
What's the point?
What if
It's
you get a
over.
commercial deal? You do it, right?
I
We'd
don't
slap
know.
a wig on you.
Because then I look like a guy with a wig on. A bald guy
Slap
with
a
a wig
rug
on.
on you.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even talk
All
about
right,
it to see if the audience noticed.
I do it for money. Do a lot of things for money.
Oh man,
That's great, though.
that is awesome.
That is a small world.
So where do they go from here? Speculation. What do you think they're going to do, David? Do you think they're going to come back with something, and just kind of let it?
I think they'll probably try to do something at the time that the park tax is expiring and try to do something.
Just 2020, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. That'll be interesting to watch. Are you in tune with that, Brad? At 2020, we got 2 associate commissioners up for election, and they're talking about redesigning the park tax. Perhaps their wish is to cut that park tax down to either an eighth or that's the most talked about proposal they're throwing out there privately or quietly, I should say, is an 1/8 cent for parks and maybe 3/8 cents for law enforcement operations. Who knows?
Well, if I'm alive, I'll be voting.
Yeah.
So I'll be ready.
We'll see how it goes.
I mean, we'll see. I'm sure we'll be doing more shows about it.
Oh
by
yes,
then.
yes.
Assuming Landmark Live isn't taken off the air by then,
Mysteriously.
which could happen.
Well,
Never know.
as soon as we get that Hair Club for Men gig, we're set for life.
No.
So what's coming up on your agenda then, David? What's in your plan?
Well, I'll just keep following what's going on with the county and the commission. I want to see one. Of course, I'm still a parks advocate,
Right.
and that during my campaign, what I did see was a lot of support for parks in the county, in the sense that no, we're not done building parks. We still need additional parks, additional facilities, improvements to the ones that we already have, and I think that was reinforced by the outcome of the vote in Parkville. That's a product. People will spend money on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to stay engaged to see what's going to happen with the park tax. What I can do to ensure that it's at a level that the public wants. Get the public involved with it. I'm not seeing that transparency yet at the county level. And then, of course, there's just other issues with the county in a way that I think that operations can be improved and streamlined, and more efficiencies, better planning. If this jail thing has been something that's been coming along, I mean, Sheriff Owens talks about how it's been coming for years. we're not better prepared for that now. I think they saw the Zona Rosa thing coming for years. I mean, that tax shortfall was there, coming. It was coming. They weren't prepared for that. And we need to get a better job of being better stewards of the tax dollars that do come in. I've looked at the tax structure in Platte County, the sales taxes, the property taxes. They're up there. I don't see that we've been undertaxing ourselves, and that there's room to improve operations by increasing these taxes. I think we just need to do a better job with what we're getting coming in now, and I think that the community's willing to continue the taxes for the parks at a level that will provide additional facilities for them to enjoy as the population grows. Yeah. I do think that there's needs for funding for the sheriff's department, for law enforcement, but they got the rest of the budget to play with there. Yeah. And they've been talking about the use tax that comes in with sales taxes. Like there's a use tax that's associated with the park sales tax, but it doesn't have to be spent on parks.
Right.
And it's been spent on just general county operations. The commission's talked about how they want to use that use tax for the same purpose as the sales tax for which it's associated. So the use tax for the park sales tax would be used for parks. Well, they don't have to do that. If it's being used for something else and the law enforcement has needs, they could be dedicating that towards there instead. And say all our use taxes we're going to dedicate to law enforcement. Yeah. If that's the situation. There are ways that they can address that. So I'm going to stay involved and keep asking the questions at the commission meetings and sending out information on my Facebook page, Park for Platte, at Park for Platte on Facebook, the number 4.
Gotcha. You've also got a website too?
Website, PlatteCountyAdvocate.com. Awesome. And I'm posting information on there. I posted information about some contracts that I have some concerns about that folks can look for themselves if they wish to sign up for email. If you don't like to do Facebook, that's great. You can sign up for my email distributions. I send out an email about every week or so.
Awesome.
With information.
Very good. Now, Brad, what's going on here? You've got some trivia lined up for us tonight. Should we tease that a little bit? It's some jailhouse trivia.
It's trivia and mostly facts. A little bit of facts, just the facts. FACTS, not FAX.
Right.
Just a little bit, because I like to educate the public, and while I'm doing that, as I'm researching this, I learn a little bit too. So I learned a few things. So, do you want me to do some now, or do you want to wait?
Throw one out real quick. I mean, we got 15 minutes.
Well, a couple of things I'll throw out. First of all, I did not know, this was the first thing that came up. We've all heard the word porridge.
Yes.
Do you know, or did you know, that is actually a slang English term for prison sentence?
I did not know.
I did not know that either. So if you're in England and your porridge is your prison sentence. Did not know that.
No, that's,
I thought that was the stuff that the little Goldilocks and the bears were eating, but again, I don't know. And here's one more for you too. What famous, and maybe there was more than one, but what one famous person or criminal did time at Alcatraz? And don't say Clint Eastwood.
One famous person.
Sean Connery, right. Welcome to the Rock.
I don't know.
David,
do you know that one?
Al Capone.
Al
Capone. Yeah, see, David knew. It says here, the Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary operated as a maximum high-security prison between 34 and 63. Sited on Alcatraz Island in San Francisco Bay, it was thought to be escape-proof and was used to house men who had caused trouble in other federal prisons. Al Capone was transferred to Alcatraz in 1934 and remained there until 1938 when, suffering from syphilis, he was moved to Terminal Island Prison in California. Yes. So, of course, the movie Escape from Alcatraz and also The Rock also took place at Alcatraz. And my daughter, for some reason, is fascinated with Alcatraz and wants to go check it out someday.
Well, you should. So great family vacations.
Very much so. Very much so.
To get warmed up for it, take her to the Platte County Jail.
That'd be nice, Why not? Why not? I should note there's more trivia and facts about prison than there is about jail. So technically my trivia and facts is about prison. Which, by the way, if they're making shivs at jail, at the Platte County Jail, there's some rough stuff going on.
Well, they might be. They probably got their own marketing page for those things. Probably sell,
Facebook page.
probably sell them on Amazon over there.
Oh, shame on us. I'm going straight to hell. Yeah. By the way, the weather turned awful again today.
It's cold out there right
Awful.
now.
God, it was so nice out the last few days.
Yeah.
And then I just felt the house was just getting cooler and cooler and cooler today.
Yeah.
And it's like an ice block of ice.
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
like winter time out there right
Yeah.
now. The wind's blowing 100 miles an hour.
But at least we didn't get the snow that half the country got.
Right.
Did you see some of that stuff
I did,
up north and out west? And whew,
It's brutal.
could be worse.
Yes.
Could be a lot worse.
Okay, so we've done a couple of landmark issues since the last show because we didn't have a show last week. This one,
Right.
if you haven't picked that up yet, kids, it talks about a jail tax getting hammered.
Yes.
So you want to pick that one up. This week, we tried to get away from such hard news. We went
Feeling good? Got some
Forever
dogs?
yours. Dogs and cats that need adopted. If you need a family pet, try that Parkville Animal Shelter down there. Friends of the Parkville Animal Shelter. They've got some nice ones ready for you, just screaming your name. So help them out. First of all, get a paper and read that.
Yes.
And then go down there and help out the Parkville Animal Shelter. We are Landmark Live, a production of the Platte County Landmark newspaper. And Brad, let's get. Oh, you want to talk Parkville?
Well, real quick, I had forgotten about
Yeah.
this until now. Why don't we?
Let's touch on that.
Yeah,
there
real
was
quick.
some controversy at Parkville
Hanging
city
chads.
election down. Some hanging chads. Some folks, about a dozen folks, got handed the wrong ballot in some alderman races down there.
Oopsie.
And one of the races ended in a tie, they thought, and another one was only like 4 votes separated, and with like 12 or 13 voters affected by having the wrong ballot, they've got to run a special election to decide those 2 alderman races. So that's
Have you ever seen anything like that before?
that was bizarre. Just as luck would have it, you've got some, you got a wrong ballot, and the vote is tied. And usually the races aren't quite that close, but this one just turned out as luck would have it. Now they've got to redo 2 elections. Well, actually, be 1 election, 2 spots.
Right. And my common nature would be to make fun of it and also accuse somebody of doing something on purpose. But honestly, I can't because I just a horrible accident. I think it's pretty obvious that it was. So
Yeah.
it's too bad.
No controversy there.
No, I don't think so. So I'm sorry, I interrupted our thought process.
I don't
know. You're about to go into something really big, and then I
Okay.
pointed at the.
Oh, okay. Well,
You want?
we don't normally go into something really big, so I don't know what we were doing. But anyway, let's go into your trivia.
I got a little more for you. Sure,
Okay.
sure. Got a few more things. So another famous prison, of course, is San Quentin, which is still operating, by the way.
Is it?
Yes. San Quentin has a dungeon on site that is no longer operational.
That's what they call the futures area, I think.
You're right. That's good. I like it. See, I was thinking of the landmark basement.
Oh, that would be a good futures
Yeah,
area.
that would also be a good one. But anyway, the dungeon closed at San Quentin during World War II because the warden at the time felt that the prison should not be enforcing the same methods of torture that were being carried out in Nazi Germany, so he decided to shut it down in the early 1940s. The dungeon is located on the rampway down to the exercise yard. Still there, not operational.
That is awesome.
Isn't that crazy?
The landmark basement, we need to do another show down there. Because you start talking dungeons, we got to get down there again. And do
I
another
figured
show.
that way. Figure you.
Let's bring David in next time.
He's like that. You might
David,
find some things he
David,
knows.
we got to get you down.
Yeah.
We'll take you down there, and we will do a show from down there. We'll talk about anything.
You set up a desk. And
Things get weird in that basement. I tell you, you start hearing noises and whatnot, and seeing. Brad saw a ghost down there.
I saw a ghost, and I also picked up some corn
He
cobs.
picked
and
up a
I
corn
didn't
cob.
realize what they'd
Hey,
been
what
used
they do
for.
with these things? And then I think Mayor Frank Goffin had to educate him on what they did with corn cobs back in the
He
day.
did it very politely.
Yeah, he did, right? Really, he presented that very nicely.
It was pretty funny, yes.
And then you quickly washed your hands when we got upstairs.
I did not. Kept my hands behind my back.
Brad comes running up. Where's the bleach?
Yeah.
I think is what you
It was
said.
not good. I was pretty embarrassed by that. Yeah. Oh well.
Crack me up.
So here is the trivia. We're gonna change subjects real quick.
Yes.
By the way, did I ever tell you what he does when he stands up?
Yes.
He can do it when he stands up. I have no idea.
A lot of things. I can do a lot of things.
Here's a trivia question. San Quentin inmates wear uniforms that are related to their offense. So the color of their uniforms are related to their offense.
Okay.
What does it mean? And I will not give an answer until you guys have a chance to think about it. What does it mean when an inmate is wearing a green uniform?
Green.
And by the way, before you answer, the question was actually answered online, asked in a little bit of a different way, but I was able to guess what green meant correctly the first time. So I think if you think about it, it's probably the obvious answer.
Oh, really? Well,
I don't know if that's a very good hint or not.
Give us some. Counterfeiting, money-related crimes.
No,
thievery.
No. Well, you're on the right track, sort of. David, any thoughts? What's that?
Marijuana?
No.
It's green.
No. What it means, although close, because what you're thinking of the offenses, the green uniforms are the lowest offenses, right. So the least harmful, like something like, I don't know, what name something, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that's not very
serious.
A white collar crime. There you go. Yeah, something like that. So that would be a green uniform. It says here, if you see an inmate with a green uniform, odds are he is serving a small sentence, such as 1.5 years for a less serious crime. That was the terminology I was looking for. Orange jumpsuits are worn by people with moderate offenses, while people with lengthy sentences, such as life imprisonment, wear blue uniforms. I thought they would be red, but they're blue. So life sentences are blue uniforms.
Interesting.
Yeah, no idea. And also, this is something I found kind of interesting. Because race issues are very contentious behind bars, prisoners are actually segregated by race during their exercise periods at San Quentin. It says here, in regards to the exercise yard, there are only 3 guards who patrol the area. However, to maintain security, guards situated along the perimeter will carry guns and use them if necessary. So, separated by race still to this day.
David, when you were working with the Kansas City jail, did they do any color coding on the inmates' jerseys, shall we say?
Nope. They were all same color.
Oh, same color.
They were all the same color.
Yeah, interesting. You know, orange is the new black.
Well, that's what they say.
That's what they say.
They only segregated them by sex. They kept the females separate.
Probably a good idea.
Probably a good idea, yeah. I would say so. Here, one more thing that I had written down here that I thought was interesting are famous people that have been to prison. Of course, some of the obvious ones are Bill Cosby, Robert Downey Jr., O.J. Simpson, Robert Blake, Martha Stewart. A few other ones I didn't know about, though. Mark Wahlberg was sentenced in 1996 to 2 years in prison after he attacked a man with a metal stick. Wahlberg was released from prison after serving 45 days of his sentence. Must have had a good lawyer. In 2013, you may or may not know this gal, singer and former Fuji member Lauryn Hill. She's the gal with the huge afro who sang the remake of Killing Me Softly. She was sentenced to 3 months in prison for failing to pay taxes on $1.8 million in earnings. That's a very popular crime for famous people because in 2008, actor Wesley Snipes was also sentenced to 3 years for failure to file tax returns from 1994 to 2000. So, tax evasion.
Interesting stuff.
Yes.
Interesting stuff.
And one more.
Okay, one more.
1988, James Brown, he felt good. A singer and band leader was sentenced to 6 years in prison for failing to stop for the police during a car chase. James Brown was the subject of an emergency police chase due to a tip that he had been carrying a gun and was behaving dangerously. And then, of course, James Brown died in 2006. And what I always think of now when I think of James Brown, wasn't he the guy that they showed the funeral for days on TV? And like you, I swear that it was, I swear that his funeral was on TV, and it was like he laid in the. Maybe that was the Pope.
Well, it's easy to get confused
They
when
look
you're
the
talking
same.
about James Brown and the Pope. I mean, they look alike for one thing, and very similar lifestyles.
Similar dancing styles.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, I know.
I swear James Brown was.
That's
like
a wide
laying in a
range
coffin
there,
for a
James
long-
Brown and the Pope. I don't know.
I gotta look it up now. I'm gonna look. You talk and I'll look it up.
All right, you looked that up. David, have we missed anything that you wanted to touch on tonight, sir?
No, I think we covered it. Yeah.
All right, man. We'll continue to follow your escapades through your PlatteCountyAdvocate.com, right?
Right.
All right. And your Facebook page one more time?
At Park for Platte.
All right.
The number 4, Park 4 Platte.
And I've already liked it while doing this show.
Well, good for you.
Yeah,
Man,
another
it's got
like
some
on
good
there.
stuff on there. All right. Brad, have we missed anything with Brad Carl Books or BradCarl.com? Anything going on with those downloads? Have you sold a book or two in the last couple
No,
weeks?
book sales are down, but that's okay.
Why do you think that is? You're writing over their heads? People don't understand you?
That's what it is. No, I'm writing time travel books, and so
Well,
in the future, my book sales will be
well,
better.
that'd be good.
Once I get there, I don't know. Look, here's a picture of James Brown in his coffin.
He does look like the Pope. You're right.
See?
Yeah.
See?
Okay.
It was in an arena, though. It was.
Oh, okay.
Remember that? See? It says here, fans packed arena for James Brown funeral. Body lay in an open-topped golden coffin in front of the stage at the James Brown Arena. Yeah, I swear to God, he laid there for like days. I swear, like so the whole world could
It's
come.
like a president.
Kinda, except that it was an open coffin.
Well,
which is a little bit creepier.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just wanted to
Everybody,
clarify that.
thanks for tuning in. And hey, we're going to have a special. You call us. We'll give you half price on a Landmark subscription now through a week from today. So now through next Thursday, tell them you saw it on Landmark Live. Ask for the Landmark Live special. We'll get you a half price subscription for 1 year. How about that, Brad Carl?
I like it.
All right, let's do it. Until next time, everybody, we'll be back with a show next week, I would imagine. Won't we, Brad?
If he wants to, we probably can.
Even if they don't want us to, we'll be back. All right.
The Pope will come.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. Good night.